He messaged me that night, but I didn't read it until the next morning. And by then, it was already too late. The phone was lighting up next to my bed. I remember seeing it glow through the blanket. I ignored it. I thought, I'll answer in the morning. But the morning didn't come for him. His last message? It wasn't angry. It wasn't desperate. It just said, I love you. I'm sorry I failed you. That was his goodbye. And the only question that's echoed in my mind since that day, louder than thunder, louder than my own breathing is, was I the reason he pulled the trigger? Or was I just the final reason in a long list of pain I never fully saw? His name wasn't Noah. That's what I'll call him, though. I never got to learn everything about his life. But I knew his laugh. I knew his insecurities. I knew the sound of his voice when he was half asleep at 3 a.m., whispering, "Don't leave me." I was 22. He was 39. We never met in a conventional way, an app, a message, a picture. But somehow, over years, the bond grew. Twisted, tender, transactional, love, lust, loneliness, survival, blended into one. At first, he was just someone who listened, someone who noticed when I posted less, or when my captions sounded sad, someone who sent $100 here, $200 there, just because he wanted me to be okay. And I gave him what he wanted, or at least what I thought he wanted. Pictures, videos, words like, "I love you." And maybe I meant them at the time, or maybe I just needed someone to say it back. But the truth is, I stopped wanting to send things. My confidence faded. My heart shifted. I met someone closer to my age, and he unraveled. He told me I changed. He said I used him, that I led him on, that I lied. He started sending me pictures of his gun. Every fight ended with a threat. "If you don't answer me, I'll do it." And the thing is, one night, I stopped answering. I blocked him. I was tired. I told myself it was just another threat, that he would call in the morning, big like before. But that morning, the only thing I got was a voicemail to my mother, sobbing, saying goodbye, and silence. So I'm asking you, what do you do with that kind of guilt? What would you do if someone's last breath had your name in it? Do you live with it? Or does a part of you die too? Have you ever ignored a message and regretted it for the rest of your life? Would you have blocked someone if they kept threatening suicide, or would you have stayed? If someone told you you're the reason I'm ending it, what would you say to them?
This isn't a story about a relationship. Not really. This is a story about guilt, about manipulation, obsession, and regret. It's about someone making you feel like their world, and then blaming you when it all falls apart. It's about not realizing you were someone's last hope until the moment they disappeared. It's about late-night voicemails you'll never unhear. It's about wondering every single day, did I kill someone by walking away? This story might feel uncomfortable, because in the quiet corners of the internet, this happens more often than you think. I've changed names, places, and timelines, but the truth, the emotion, the consequences, they're real, and they've changed me forever. If you've ever fallen for someone you never met in person, if you've ever needed affection so badly that you ignored the warning signs, if someone made you feel loved and guilty in the same breath, then you might already know this feeling. Maybe you were the person holding on too tight, or maybe you were the one they held on to as they drowned. Maybe you didn't answer that last message. Maybe you said something cruel because you were angry. Maybe you're still trying to forgive yourself. I get it. I'm still trying too. And if you've ever whispered, "Was it my fault?" to your own reflection, keep listening. Because this story isn't just mine. It might be yours too. I was 18, fresh out of high school, Lonely, fragile, and quietly falling apart in a little mountain town in British Columbia. My parents were present, but distant. My siblings had moved out. My friends didn't understand the weight I carried, and I didn't know what to do with all the sadness. Photography became my escape. I'd post my work in online forums, just a way to share beauty. Until one day, he messaged me, Evan. He said he liked how I captured light, that my eyes were rare, that I had an old soul. I blushed at the compliment. I needed it more than I'd ever admit. It started with photography, but it quickly turned into everything else. He asked about my favorite music. He remembered my cat's name. He'd check in if I didn't post for a day. Slowly, Evan became my routine, my comfort, my mirror. I didn't question why a man in his 30s was talking to me every night. I told myself he was probably 28 or 29. It wasn't until much later that I realized he was 38, almost twice my age. But by then, I already needed him, or thought I did. He started sending gifts, a tripod for my camera, then groceries when I mentioned my mom lost her job, then a used DSLR. I never asked, but I never stopped him either. He said, "You inspire me. I want to support you." And when I said thank you, he'd reply, "Just promise me you'll never disappear on me." That should have been the first red flag. But when you're drowning, even the hand that's pulling you under feels like rescue. Our calls got longer. 4 hours, sometimes 6. He'd stay on the line while I fell asleep. I stopped talking to other guys. Not because he asked me to, but because I felt guilty even thinking about it. He'd say things like, "You're the only pure soul I've ever met. If I ever lost you, I don't know what I'd do." I started saying, "I love you," before I really understood what that meant. Because how do you tell the difference between love and emotional dependence? There were cracks in the glass, but I didn't want to look too closely. Sometimes he'd lose his temper, accuse me of hiding things. "Why didn't you tell me your phone was dead? Why didn't you say goodnight?" The anger would last hours, but afterward, always flowers, always apologies, always tears. "I'm just scared you'll leave me like everyone else." And I'd stay, because I didn't want to be everyone else. Have you ever connected with someone online who felt like your lifeline? Drop your story in the comments below. You're not alone. Someone might need your words tonight. Looking back now, I wasn't in love. I was dependent, and so was he. At first, Evan was everything. A warm voice in the dark, a calm in the chaos. He texted every morning before I woke up, sent me Spotify playlists, movie links, tiny packages, lip balm, a hoodie, a lens cap, things I never asked for, things that made me feel seen. But then, the warmth started to flicker. Little things shifted, slowly, quietly. He'd say things like, "You haven't messaged all day. Are you okay? You used to reply faster. I get it. You have other people now." At first, I thought he was just insecure. Maybe he had abandonment issues. I didn't want to be another person who left. So I reassured him, again and again and again. Have you ever felt like you had to constantly prove you weren't leaving someone? Drop it in the comments if you've ever been pulled into that exhausting cycle. Love bomb, guilt trip, repeat. Evan became my world, but he also started isolating me from mine. "I don't like your friend Jamie. She posts inappropriate things. Your family doesn't get you like I do. Other guys don't respect you. You're better than them." And every time I pushed back, he made it sound like protection, not control. "I just want to keep you safe. You're precious to me. I've been hurt before. I don't want to lose you." The lie. I believed. I didn't notice how small my world had gotten, how quickly I stopped calling my friends, how I canceled plans, how I stopped applying for jobs, because I needed to be available when he needed me. I needed to be there when he was spiraling, or lonely, or angry. I believed that love meant proving your loyalty constantly, that if I didn't, he'd go dark or worse. He told me once that if I ever ghosted him, he'd shatter, and I thought he meant emotionally. I didn't know he meant literally. The quiet fear. One night, he called me 17 times in a row. I was asleep. My ringer was off. When I woke up, there were voicemails, breathing, crying, gun clicks. He said, "I thought you were dead, or cheating, or just done with me." I cried too, and apologized for sleeping. When love starts to feel like a job, I began monitoring my tone, watching my words, hiding my Instagram stories, answering texts mid-shower, during family dinners, in class. I was exhausted, but terrified of being the reason he broke. It wasn't love anymore. It was emotional hostage-taking, and I didn't even realize it. Has someone ever made you feel responsible for their moods, their pain, even their safety? Share anonymously if you need to. You never know who needs to hear your story. The illusion of safety. He began offering more money, groceries, rent, medication. "Let me take care of you," he said. And I let him, because it felt like love. But it wasn't. It was a cage, made of comfort and obligation. And every day, I felt more trapped inside it. Why I stayed. Why did I stay? Because I felt like leaving would destroy him. Because I didn't want blood on my hands. Because I had already cut so many ties with people who might have pulled me out. Because he told me that if I ever stopped loving him, he'd stop living. And I believed him. I wish I could go back and tell that version of me, "It's not your job to keep him alive, it never was." I didn't plan to meet someone else. It just happened. His name was Matt. He lived one town over, worked at the bookstore I visited to escape. He was my age, 19, kind, easy, uncomplicated. He didn't love bomb me, didn't ask for my passwords, didn't need me to reassure him every hour. He just liked me. And for the first time, I realized how tired I was of being worshipped and feared at the same time. One afternoon, I posted a picture of my coffee and a blurry shot of Matt's elbow. Not even his face. Just a moment. Harmless. But Evan saw it. That night, I got 7 voice messages in a row. The first, calm. "Hey, who's that guy?" The second, shaky. "You couldn't wait, could you?" The rest, screaming, crying, slurred words, blaming me. "I gave you everything. I made you who you are. No one will ever love you like I did." And then, the photo. It was his gun, lying on his lap next to a bottle of whiskey. In the last voice note, "I'm not trying to manipulate you, I'm just saying, if you go, I go." He wanted me to feel his pain, not witness it, not prevent it, carry it. I'd love to say I was calm, that I blocked him with grace, that I was the bigger person. But I wasn't. I was angry, scared, exhausted. I told him he was sick. I told him I hated him. I said, "I hope you do it. Maybe then I'll finally be free." I can't take those words back. And they haunt me. Because even if someone is hurting you, when you become cruel back, you lose something you can never get back, your sense of self, your peace. A week passed, silence, no calls, no texts, then an email. One line, "Let's meet. One last time. I just want to say goodbye properly." I didn't want to go, but part of me still felt responsible. What if he really would hurt himself? So I said yes. I brought a friend. We met at a park, middle of the day, wide open space. When I saw him, he looked thinner, pale, broken. He handed me an envelope. Inside, $2,000 in cash. "For the camera, for the time, for you." I didn't want to take it. He whispered, "You were the only thing that made me feel real." Then he walked away, just like that. And I told myself it was over. But it wasn't. He was gone. But the guilt stayed. I'd hear his voice in my dreams. I'd jump at message notifications. I felt watched, like I owed him something I could never repay. Not money, not love, a kind of penance. Because in his world, I was the villain, and part of me believed him. When someone gives you everything and then demands your soul in return, saying no doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like murder. His ghost, my cage. I moved on. At least I pretended to. I dated other people. I smiled in photos. I deleted our messages. But every time someone told me they loved me, I flinched. Because what if they needed me too much? What if I left them and they didn't survive it either? That's what emotional captivity feels like. Not chains, not bruises, but guilt, quiet, invisible, endless. Drop a in the comments if you've ever felt trapped by guilt. Your story might help someone realize they're not alone. But there's a difference. I wanted someone to make me feel worthy. He wanted someone to belong to him completely. And that's where the danger started. It was February 11th, a Friday. Cold. I'd muted his notifications. I wasn't checking them anymore. But that night, something tugged at me, a pressure I couldn't name. When I opened my voicemail inbox, there were 4 new messages. His voice was slower, not slurred, but resigned. I know you're done. I get it. I ruined this. I ruined you. You're not a bad person, Lena. Don't let anyone tell you that. Not even me. I'll always be proud of you. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. Just silence. Then, a single breath. Click. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even listen to them until days later, because I was barely holding myself up. I was spiraling. I'd stopped my meds cold turkey, not out of bravery, out of burnout. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I didn't recognize. Someone cracked open. There were scratches on my arms I couldn't remember making. I wasn't trying to die. I just didn't want to feel anymore. Then, the fight happened. The last one. He'd seen my OnlyFans launch go public. I was tired of hiding, of performing modesty to make him comfortable while he violated my boundaries for years. I wanted control of my body, and he hated that. He messaged me. Guess I never meant anything to you. Just a stepping stone for your slut era. I blocked him. Again. That night, he didn't text me. He texted my mother. I was asleep, dead to the world. My phone on airplane mode. I didn't see it until the next morning. A text to me. I hope someday you'll understand that I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to stay like this. And to my mom, tell her I'm sorry. I loved her more than life. The police time-stamped it. 3:04 a.m. The gunshot was heard by his neighbor at 3:12. He died 8 minutes after pressing send. The morning. After I woke up to my mom sitting on the edge of my bed, shaking. Her face was pale. She was crying, but silent. Her hands were clenched in her lap, the phone screen glowing. She didn't look at me when she said it. He's gone. I remember everything after that in fragments. Cold tile on my knees, screaming so loud it hurt my chest. My own vomit on the bathroom floor, my fingers clawing at my scalp. He'd shot himself in his car, in front of his own house. He left a note. It had pictures of us taped inside and written in his handwriting. I hope this hurts you just enough to never forget me. Every year, over 700,000 people die from suicide worldwide. Most of them leave signs, many send messages, and most desperately want to be stopped. But the truth is, we're not trained to see it, or we're too exhausted, or too scared to believe what it really means, so we dismiss it. They won't really do it. They're just venting. They're being manipulative. And sometimes, they are. But sometimes, it's the last thing they'll ever say. His ghost, still here. I didn't cry at the funeral. I sat in the back. I listened to his mother say he was always the giver. I watched his brother read a poem about second chances. I didn't speak, because what could I say? That I was the reason he died? Or that he'd been slowly killing me too? No one wants to hear that. Not when they're grieving a saint. Not when the villain is the girl who survived. Have you ever lost someone and blamed yourself? Even a little? Drop A in the comments if you're still holding questions you can't answer. They went through his phone. Of course they did. His mother, his sister, his best friend from college, they found everything. Every text, every voice note, every screenshot of our arguments, and none of the ones that told the other side of the story. I became a monster. The much younger girl who used him. The one who took his money, ignored his pain, and broke his heart for clout. They said I exploited him, that I killed him. The subreddit threads exploded. Someone posted our photos. My face, my OnlyFans, my username. I had strangers calling me a murderer. I got death threats. Hope you end up the same way. You belong in the ground next to him. Rotten hell, slut. I stopped checking my DMs, but it was too late. The rot had already sunk in. I quit photography. I deleted everything. Instagram, Twitter, the Discords, the forums. I couldn't stomach looking at my own face. I couldn't go outside without thinking people recognized me, that they knew. I dropped out of school, stopped answering calls, stopped eating. I was 89 pounds. And some part of me wanted to disappear completely. Not because I missed him, but because I didn't want to live in the world he left me in. One night I sat in the tub with a bottle of Ativan. I thought, if I close my eyes now, maybe this will all fade. Maybe I'll go back to before. But I didn't. I texted a friend instead. Just 3 words. I need help. I was admitted to an outpatient program 2 days later, and for the first time in my life, I sat across from someone who didn't pity me, who didn't blame me, who just listened. After weeks of assessment, I finally had a name for what I'd felt my whole life: borderline personality disorder, BPD. The storm inside me finally had a weather pattern. My therapist explained it like this. You feel everything at level 10. Love, abandonment, shame. It's all amplified. You were never taught how to sit with those feelings, so you ran, or raged, or split people into angels and demons to survive. Evan wasn't my savior, and he wasn't my villain either. He was a broken man with his own darkness, and I was a girl screaming into the void, asking anyone to save me. We fed each other poison and called it love. The last message I never deleted. I still have it. The final voicemail. Not the ones he left in despair. Those I deleted long ago. But this one, it's different. It was from before, 1 year in. He was drunk, I think, laughing. Voice recording. Lena, you're going to change the world. I just know it. I hope I'm there to see it. But even if I'm not, you're gonna shine, kid. I listen to that when I can't sleep. Not because I believe him, but because part of me still needs to hear it. Still needs to believe I wasn't just a mistake in someone else's tragedy. What remains? There are nights I wake up gasping, dreaming I'm back in that car, sitting next to his body, smelling blood and gasoline, begging him to wake up. But he never does. I've stopped asking the question, was I the reason he pulled the trigger? Because the truth is, maybe I was a reason, but I wasn't the whole story, and neither was he. We were 2 people bleeding into each other, hoping love could plug the wounds. It couldn't. Have you ever been blamed for something that broke you inside? Share your story below, or just comment if you vicaried guilt that wasn't a tea yours to hold. I didn't open our messages for weeks. Maybe it was fear. Maybe I was hoping I could outweigh the guilt. That if I didn't look, maybe it wouldn't feel so real. But the grief, it lingers. It doesn't hit you like a wave. It seeps in like water through a crack in the ceiling. Slowly, quietly, until everything is soaked. I remember the night I finally opened our thread. I was lying in bed, 3:14 a.m. I hadn't eaten in 36 hours. I typed his name into the search bar like it was a ritual, like I was summoning something, and suddenly, there it was. Our entire story, 16 months, 473 days, every message, every photo, every inside joke and broken promise. I sat there scrolling. At first, it was small things. Him sending me music links. The time he sent $100, just because I looked sad that day. And then, the darkness started to show. Please don't post that. You know it makes me spiral. You're the only reason I don't blow my brains out. Promise me you'll never leave. Just promise. I stopped breathing for a moment. It wasn't that I hadn't heard those words before, it was just, reading them now felt like unlocking a trap door I didn't know was under my feet. The name meant something. Evan always used the same online handle, Durden Exist. It was on his Instagram, his Reddit, even his PayPal. I once asked what it meant. He shrugged and said, "It's just a username," but something about it always stayed with me. Durden. The name meant nothing to me back then. But grief is a strange detective. It makes you investigate things you didn't care about when someone was alive. Months later, after the funeral, after the therapy intake forms, after the 5th time I almost relapsed, I was watching Fight Club at a friend's apartment. We were half-baked, laughing at how edgy and ridiculous it was. Then the name hit me. Tyler Durden. My skin crawled. I paused the movie, sat straight up, Googled everything I could about the character. And suddenly, Evan unraveled right in front of me. Tyler Durden wasn't a person. He was a mask, a projection, a rage-soaked fantasy built by a man who hated himself so much he had to invent someone powerful to survive, someone charming, unstoppable, unbreakable, someone nobody could leave. It all made sense. Evan wasn't Evan. Not really. He was Durden, the fantasy version of himself. And when the fantasy started to collapse, when I pulled away, when he lost control, he did what Tyler did in the film's final scene. He put the gun to his own head and pulled the trigger. Except this wasn't a movie. There were no credits. Just a coroner's report, a suicide note, and a girl left behind wondering, was I the one who broke the illusion? Guilt is a shapeshifter. People talk about guilt like it's a weight, but it's not. It's a mirror, and it shows you what you think you are at your worst. I saw myself through Evan's eyes, and I was both savior and villain. The girl who saved his life, the woman who destroyed it. Some nights I believed I killed him, other nights I believed I was a victim too. I don't think either version is the full truth. Love is messy. Love can rot, especially when it's built on trauma. I was unstable. I had undiagnosed BPD, and my moods were explosive. I said things I regret. But Evan, he knew how to twist guilt into a leash. He never needed to scream. Just a few words. Without you, I don't exist. And suddenly I was trapped. Photographs of a dead man smiling. I started therapy 2 months after he died. My diagnosis didn't feel like a surprise. Borderline personality disorder, emotional dysregulation, fear of abandonment, all the puzzle pieces that made me attach so fast. That made me need his attention like oxygen. But that also made me volatile, defensive, cruel even. Therapy helped me understand myself, but it didn't erase the images. One day, I was reorganizing my folders and I stumbled on a hidden album he sent me long ago, titled simply, "For When I'm Gone." I thought it was a joke at the time. Inside were 34 photographs, him in a hoodie smiling at the camera, us at the lake, a close-up of a note that read, "I am sorry I couldn't be stronger." That album broke me more than the funeral, because it proved something I didn't want to admit. He'd planned this for months, and I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to. Do you think we were ever truly responsible for someone else's decision to end their life? Comment below. Let's talk. Let's really talk. No shame here, no blame, just truth. Forgiveness in the mirror. I still do this thing my therapist taught me. I sit in front of the mirror, look into my own eyes, and I say the words I've never fully believed. I forgive you. Sometimes I whisper it. Sometimes I shout it until I'm raw. But most nights, I just sit there in silence, letting the past settle like dust. Evan isn't here anymore, but I am, and that has to mean something. I still photograph things, mountains, rivers, strangers I'll never meet again. I still cry when I hear his laugh in my old files, but I don't wish to trade places with him anymore. I wish I could tell him, you were more than your pain. You didn't need to end the story this way, but maybe that's why I'm still telling it, so someone else doesn't close their chapter too soon. Have you ever carried guilt after someone's death? Comment A if you're still learning to forgive yourself. Someone out there needs your story. Evan, it's been over a year now. I still hear your voice sometimes. Not in a haunted horror movie way. More like memory bleed. Sometimes when I open old messages or that one audio file of you laughing, it feels like I could turn around and see you again. That morning I found out, the morning after your last message, I still remember what my mom looked like when she woke me. Her eyes were already wet. She just stood there in my doorway for a second. No words, just silence. And somehow, I knew. Before she said it, I knew. You were gone. And I knew, deep in my chest, in that brutal, nauseating clarity, that the world had just changed, permanently. I remember the cold sweat, the spinning room, the panic, the denial, the moment right before grief hits, the awful pause where your brain tries to rewrite reality. I said your name out loud, like maybe if I said it fast enough, loud enough, the universe would reverse itself. But it didn't. You were still dead, and I was still here, alone. You said I saved you, but I couldn't even save myself. You always used to say I was your anchor, that I kept you from drifting off. But Evan, I was drifting too. You just never saw it. Or maybe you didn't want to. You needed me to be strong so badly that you ignored my cracks. And I let you. Because it felt good to be needed. Because if I could fix you, then maybe I wasn't broken. But the truth is, neither of us were okay. We were trying to survive by clinging to each other. You called it love. And maybe it was, but it was also control, and manipulation, and guilt, and fear. Love and trauma got tangled in the same thread, and by the time I tried to pull away, it was already knotted too tight. I still see you in everything. I see you in camera stores, in film reels, in alleyway murals and red neon lights. I hear you in Fight Club quotes. I hear you in the way I second-guess myself when someone says they love me. You taught me that love had a price, that if someone gives to you, you owe them. But that wasn't love. That was survival disguised as romance. And even now, sometimes I wonder, did you really love me? Or did you just love the version of yourself that felt whole when I was around? If I could talk to you one more time, I'd tell you, I don't hate you. I don't even blame you. I understand now, in a way I couldn't back then. Your pain was older than me, deeper than any love could reach. You were bleeding long before I got there. And when you handed me the knife and asked me to make it stop, I didn't know how to hold it without cutting myself too. I wish I'd said goodbye differently. I wish I'd been kinder the last time we spoke. I wish I'd read your final message before it was too late. But most of all, I wish you hadn't made me your reason to live. Because now I live with the question, was I also your reason to die? I still love you. Not the way I used to, but with a quiet ache, with forgiveness, with understanding. I loved you too late. I'm sorry. If you've made it this far, thank you for holding space for this story. Not just mine, but maybe yours too. Because this isn't just about Evan and me. It's about the millions of people carrying guilt that was never theirs to hold. It's about trauma dressed as love, about being told you re someone as only reason, and the weight of what happens when you can live up to that. Most show signs. Many reach out. Sometimes we miss them. Sometimes it's not our fault. But we carry it anyway. If you need help, if you or someone you know is struggling, Canada, talk suicide. Canada, 1-833-456-4566, US 988, Suicide and Crisis Lifeline Worldwide, www.befrienders.org, or text HOME to 741741 for free 24/7 crisis support. There is help. There is hope. You are not alone. If you've ever felt like this, if guilt, loss, or fear ever blurred the lines of love, comment below. Drop A for someone you lost. Drop A if you're still healing. Or just say, I'm still here. Someone might read your words and feel less alone.